Hello and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Harvey Chip Cole III, and he's a board-certified oculofacial plastic surgeon specializing in ophthalmology as well as cosmetic surgery of the eyes and face. Now, Dr. Cole opened Oculus Plastic Surgery in 1994 in Atlanta, Georgia, and has performed more than 33,000 medical and aesthetic surgeries from infants to the elderly in his Joint Commission accredited private surgical suite. Now, his mantra is to never turn down or reconstruct a patient based on lack of financial resources, and paying it forward has always been part of his mission. Now, Dr. Cole has co-authored over a dozen medical books, as well as his own consumer book, which we'll talk about, and he's given over 100 lectures around the world. He's been an invited guest on Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, and Good Day Atlanta, as well as several radio stations. Now, in addition to his clinical practice, Dr. Cole also founded the nonprofit Face Change Foundation that helps troubled teens, and we'll also talk more about that. Dr. Cole, welcome to Beauty in the Biz. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. And I need to apologize. I have two dogs and I hear one barking in the background. So if you hear a little bit, I do apologize, but it just makes it a family affair.
Okay, so far so good. I can't hear them. So the burning question is there a Harvey Chip Cole IV?
That is an interesting question. I grew up where people would tease me with the name Harvey, and there was Harvey the Rabbit and things like that. Now I understand through my kids that there is a Harvey on one of the, soap operas or something, that everybody likes the name Harvey, but I didn't feel that way. And so when I was getting ready to name my son, my wife and I could not think of a good nickname, and we didn't want to call him Harvey. So we named him Christopher Douglas Cole. And later, when he got in kindergarten, there were 4 Chris's in his class. So we felt like we probably should have done the 4th. And one other thing that was funny, I was doing plastic surgery at Vanderbilt, and we were at a playground, and this cute little curly haired boy is running around, and his name was Ivy. And we said, that's really cute. And I said, is that a family name? And they said, well, sort of. He's the 4th. So we call him Ivy. And I looked at my wife and said, is it too late to change our son's name? She said, you could do that with dogs, but you can't do that with kids.
For sure. Yeah. He'd be in therapy now. Yeah.
That's right.
So let's talk about your practice, because you've been around for a long time. You know, you started in 1994. Did you go straight into private practice, or did you go through the hospital? What was your journey to get there?
Sure. I joined a guy that was very big in our field back in 1992, guy named Clinton McCord, and he was kind of one of the fathers of oculoplastic surgery at the time. And I joined him. He, like a lot of older guys, he had been through his 5 divorces, and he just got his real estate license. And he was ready to quit. Well, then when I joined him, I showed him laser and endoscopic surgery. He got excited again, and he remarried his wife, which was, I think, his 6th marriage. And I could see the writing on the wall. So I went off by myself after about 2 years.
Okay. Did you go ahead and build a building, or did you go solo in a small way and then built up to it?
Well, what I planned to do and what I did are 2 different things. And that's something good for some of the younger docs that might be listening. I had a plan to buy property and build an office and surgery center. And about 2 days before the closing, Metropolitan Life Insurance came in and bought 2 buildings next to the property that I was supposed to buy. And I got snubbed out. So then I leased the space, planning to be there for 3 years. And here I am almost 30 years later, and I've taken over the whole floor. and built a surgery center and a med spa, but unfortunately it's leased space, which is not quite as valuable as owning your own real estate.
Well, I actually do. I love real estate on the side, and I'm in syndications. So I invest in multifamily apartment buildings.
Sure.
Atlanta is a hot spot, so you're not too late. If you're interested,
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I am looking right now at some space that I might duplicate what I've already done, and just have it be kind of my super group for 10 years from now when I slow down or retire.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me know, because I'm always looking for a good real estate deal.
Okay.
We don't have any of those in California. So when did you build the surgical suite part of your practice? Were you in there for a while and then built it?
Yeah, I was in, I kind of saw the writing on the wall very early, and I was fortunate in that in 1994, I built the surgery center, and I moved into that office in 1992. So 2 years later, and I was doing a lot of work at the hospitals and seeing kind of where things were going with insurance. And I was the first Joint Commission accredited ambulatory surgery center in Georgia in 1994. And I've kept it up ever since then. And it's been probably the smartest business decision that I've made.
And are you doing a lot of reconstructive still, or are you what's your percentage of cosmetic?
Yeah, I would say right now I'm probably about 75% cosmetic, 25% functional. But what's interesting, and this is good for, some of the people that are developing their career and thinking about it right now, is in the early days, what was so nice is it didn't matter what type of surgery I did, because the reimbursement was kind of poor for the surgeon if you're doing a functional case, but you got a good surgery center reimbursement. And then for cosmetic, it's just the opposite. You want to be very, very competitive, but you get paid better as a surgeon, so to speak, and then your facility fee is lower. So it really balances out to where there's no such thing as a bad case or a bad surgery. Whereas people that don't have the benefit of a surgery center and they're going over to the hospital, they feel like all they want to do is cosmetic cases, which is great, but you have to build your skill set and your reputation before you're able to just take the cream off the top.
For sure. The way I see it, if you can swing it, your own surgery center, or at least OR suite or whatever you want. I don't know if you needed Medicare. That must be a big deal in today's world to be Medicare approved. But if you can just do cosmetic in your own office, I know the cosmetic patient loves the privacy and the comfort. I know the doctor loves not running all over town. You're working in somebody else's environment that he can't control. So and if you can handle it, I really like internal,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that if a person has enough volume in their reputation to where they can have an in-office, suite or OR, one of the other big advantages that you have now that you didn't have 30 years ago is anesthesia has improved so much. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing that I do that I can't do under sedation. And there's certainly a lot of cases that I might do under general with an LMA, but that's not even general where you're putting a tube down somebody's throat. So people get up and walk out of the operating room. So you don't have that extended recovery that you used to have. And I also do a lot of surgery endoscopically and with laser. And so I don't make a lot of the large incisions that I used to make. I mean, I trained back in the day where it was like the American Indians. We'd make an incision from ear to ear and take the whole scalp down. I mean, I do one of those once or twice a year, and that's for major trauma. But cosmetically, that doesn't exist anymore. Nobody does those big flaps and things unless you're doing body work with breast reconstruction.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the patients would tolerate that in today's world, especially being so educated as they are on the internet. Um, when it comes to anesthesia, I think you're so right on. I'm watching trends. I'm always watching what patients like,
Right.
where they're heading. And patients are loving the anesthesia angle. Most of us have had a general anesthesia story, or a friend has had a story. I personally wake up sicker than a dog from general anesthesia. So I personally would rather have it done local or twilight or whatever that is. If you can do that, I mean, I think kudos to you. If you can get away from general and go that other route, I think that's what the patients want. And it's a good
Right.
differentiator.
No, I totally agree. And I think too that it's important to look at everything you do from the patient's perspective. And what happens a lot, especially to surgeons, is they do what they're most comfortable with. And most surgeons would prefer not to chit chat, not to have to do all that stuff. They want their patient asleep. They want to do their surgery and leave. But it's a differentiator, and you got to look at it from the patient's perspective, and that's something that you taught me years ago when we first started talking. Is it's almost like walking in your office and imagine you're the patient. What do you want to see? What do you want to receive? And that goes not only from your front reception, but it goes all the way to having surgery.
Yep. I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when in your practice, I read somewhere that you also, well, I saw a photo of you, I think it's your partner, and then a whole bunch of staff. Who do you have on board? Is it a business partner, or is it an associate? And then how many staff do you have?
Well, it's very interesting. That has changed a little bit through time. So I would say that in the early days, I had about 4 or 5 people. And I was just too busy. People were waiting 6, 8 months to see me. And, I was scheduled a year in advance. And so it's either lose them to the competitor or bring somebody in. So I brought somebody in, and we were together for probably about 15 years. And we brought in a couple of other people. And then what happens is young docs, come in, but they want to be as busy and do what the senior docs are doing. And then, they get disillusioned. And so it ended up being the two of us, which you probably saw in the picture. And very tragically, he was about 4 years younger than me. He had a fall and fell down some steps and broke his neck, and he actually died.
Oh,
and so right now I'm actually by myself, and I'm looking for an associate, and they're easy to find, so I'm being patient and getting the right one. But I've gone from, I had as many as 30 team members at one point to now I'm back down to about 5.
Isn't your life easier?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's funny because I promised myself I will never have 30 people again because, besides we had a killer kickball team, it's just real hard to manage 30 people.
I hear it all the time. The surgeon, I say, so were you doing a lifestyle practice or an empire building practice?
Right.
And they said,
exactly.
Well, it was an empire building until I realized what goes into that. And now we're back to lifestyle. I don't need the headaches. Actually, I'm going to interview Ed Williams. He's got 75 staff up in upstate New York, and everyone cringes when they hear that. And he just loves it, and it's his thing. But I don't know many people who are interested in managing that many people. Even if you're not directly managing, you're losing sleep, at night trying to pay all these people, especially with the dips and valleys that happen with this industry. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So good for you.
I completely agree. I know Ed, and he's a great guy, and we're very similar in that we love people and we like self-help. And what happens is you take on these projects, and I would have people that I was trying to help them with their marriage and their life and their career and all this. And then at some point, you kind of say to yourself, your family should be number one on your list. And if those people are taking you away from your family, then you're not doing the right thing. And so I have definitely regrouped. And I think one of the few pearls of this COVID chaos is allowing people to regroup and decide, do they want to change some things in their lives and or their practice? And this is a good time to make that transition.
For sure. Speaking of that, I have noticed I used to do a lot of HR. Practices call me a lot to find them a phone staff or a coordinator or a nurse or an MA. And I'm not doing it right now because I can't get you results as fast as you want them. And I am not appreciating the quality of applicants. Again, this COVID thing has really turned everything upside down. Are you feeling that in Atlanta as well? Finding good staff?
We are, we keep a file because we get a fair amount of people that, ask us, if we're looking, and if they're good, we keep them in a file. And so we'll reach out to them. And I also, because of the community, I'll see people and run into people and they're always asking. And I like to, say, which is very true, that I've never had somebody quit or leave me, but I have set a lot of people free, So I treat my team very, very good, and they do the same for me. And I've got people that have been with me 30 years, 24 years, 17 years, things like that. So I'm very blessed from that standpoint that I have a real stable group.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you have tips. And do you have any for staff? Like, how do you hang on? Here's the other part to that. Sometimes somebody can be there for 30 years and that's terrific, but they won't adapt to change. So sometimes it starts to become a con rather than a pro. Do you find that yourself or no?
Absolutely. One of my favorite examples that I give to doctors, because they can all relate if they've worked in the VA system, is that it's like somebody at the VA hospital, say a nurse that has 20 years experience. I like to say they have 1 year of growth and they repeated it for 19 more years, and that's what happens sometimes with, your staff. And so it's important, I think, to interact and have meetings. And one of my little words, it's interesting. I actually got this from Tony Robbins, and I are the same age. And I got kind of introduced to him way back when he had like 50 people, and, you could sit down and have dinner with them and ride a camel with them, and one of his little words was CANI, CANI, constant and never ending improvement. And I've kind of adapted that. And so I'm always making little changes. And if I see somebody that won't make changes and they're not willing to grow, then those are the ones I set free.
Gotcha. How do you motivate people? Are you kind of like a family, or are you where you go out to dinner? I know you used to have a sports team. Like,
Right.
How are you keeping people engaged?
It changes. I would say that there will be times where we have a group of people and they like to do activities, and then we do bowling and we go to family axe throwing night. I mean, we do some creative stuff. And then there's times where people say, I get to see my spouse all the time and I work with these people, but we have more fun. It's a different kind of fun. And so most of the team members prefer to go out with just us and not include the spouses. And so that's what we do, I'd say 70% of the time. But we always have at least 2 functions during the year where we include, the spouses and kids, because, it's a lot of fun to have say a big pool party and all the kids are there and that kind of thing.
So now that you've run a business for a long time, you know how to run a business, not just a practice. You're very business minded.
Right.
Give us some tips. How do you, in today's world, how would you tell somebody how to scale, how to grow this thing?
Yeah, I think to me, the most important thing is, everybody's used this before, but it's like the riches are in the niches. So you have to find out what your niche is, and your niche might not be a surgical procedure. It might be that, for instance, you have an all female staff and you're a female surgeon and you cater to empowering women. That could be your niche. So, I think finding your niche helps you define yourself and your practice. And then from there, you can use that to kind of formulate your approach. And when I started out, I started in ophthalmology, and then I did all the plastic surgery, and I even did the body, full general boarded and cosmetic. At one point I was doing body liposuction and that kind of thing, but I play a lot of tennis and it was giving me tennis elbow. And so I would rather play tennis than to do liposuction. So I quit doing it. And, but it helped me realize that, people are coming from all over to see me, to repair, say, I would say probably 50% of my practice to this day is botched surgery. So I see a lot of people that have had surgery elsewhere. And so I started thinking, well, it's so much easier for me if I could see those patients before they have surgery elsewhere. They get a better result. It's less baggage for me. So then I started kind of making my niche, doing the eyes and face, which was kind of full circle for me because that's how I started. So I think the mistake that I made was not staying with my niche and just perfecting my niche. So my advice to people would be find your niche, whether it's a procedure, it's an approach, it might be, for instance, that you do only sedation anesthesia and you never do general anesthesia. That's something that I have adopted. And I do a lot of laser work, but I was involved in the early 90s, with laser and endoscopic surgery. So I've always kind of been on the, no pun intended, cutting edge. And, but I think it's finding what interests you the most, and then, coupling and bridging that with your niche. Because if you have a niche, but you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be happy.
For sure. I always recommend to a surgeon, if you're going to do external advertising, get super clear and focused on the niche thing. Either get focused on one group, one procedure, and you don't have to stick to that forever. It's for external advertising. Make a name for yourself as something, and then you can always build from that internally. But to be everything to everybody, especially in today's crowded world, I just think you'll get lost in the shuffle. Like you're called like the eye guy, like that. And that had to help you transition to facelifts. Was that helpful because you stayed up in the face area?
Yeah, it was. It's interesting. One of my favorite stories, and I'll go back to answering that, is I was operating, doing a full facial procedure on a lady, and I came out to talk to her husband, and he said to me, I've got some heaviness up here in my upper lids and my brow, and do you have somebody that you could send me to that could get that done? And I thought he was joking, and I said, well, I do that, and blah blah blah. And he goes, well, I thought you just did facelifts, and I didn't realize you did this stuff. And it really opened my eyes about, you always have to, educate people and let them know. And what you're saying about, advertising and being specific, it reminds me, I'm old enough to go back to the Yellow Page days where you'd open up an ad for a general plastic surgeon, and they had the whole alphabet in there. They specialized from A was acne, I think, and Z was a Z-plasty for scars, and they had about 30 procedures in between. Well, people just want to get a breast augmentation. They don't want to know that you do 25 procedures. They want to know that you do really good breast augmentation. And how do you do it? Do you do it under the breast or through the axilla or through the belly button? And I think that people feel like they have to give a laundry list of everything they do. And what I like to do, back to your question, is people might come to me for their eyes, or they get referred to me. And as I'm talking to them, I talk about harmony and balance. And I point out to them how, even though the eyes have it, and that's going to be where everybody looks, well, let's look at your chin, and let's look at your mouth and your neck. And it's kind of a natural progression. And so for me, it's almost a gateway, because if you look at studies, they all show the top 10 things people notice about themselves. Eyes are always number one. And if you look at the top 10 that other people notice about other people, eyes are always number one. But if you look at something like the neck, for a person, it might be number 4, number 3 on their list. But on someone else's list, looking at them, it's like number 8 or number 10.
So what about surgical versus non-surgical? Are you a surgeon, period, and you brought on injectors and estheticians, or are you a patient for life kind of practice where you want them coming up to surgery, going down from surgery? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would say that I have transitioned, and that's what I would suggest for most people. When I started out, it was all about the relationship and the trust and coming to you for everything. And then if I didn't do it, I would recommend somebody. But now what I've done is I only inject fillers or Botox to people that absolutely demand that I do it. And if not, I have, a physician extender do it, because my time is better spent in the operating room. And, it's very similar transition to, say, OB. Back in the day, I love when I delivered a baby and I told my wife I wanted to be an obstetrician, and she's like, no way, I'll never see you. You'll be in the middle of the night taking care of everybody's baby. And she knows that I would, because of my personality. But if back then you would have seen 8 different doctors in an OB practice, I probably would be an obstetrician today, because things have changed and people are more accepting. And it's the same way. Doctors, for the most part, don't have an hour to spend doing fillers or Botox when the margins are so low. But people expect that, because they go to their med spa, and the esthetician or the nurse does have time to spend 45 minutes with them. So they expect to get the time. So if you can't give it to them, they consider you an inferior provider, because you can't do it. And so you have to look at the economics of it also, and what's going to make a person, i.e. client, feel most satisfied. And they would rather have their Botox by a nurse injector that's going to spend an hour with them.
Yeah, no, I agree. What I don't think a lot of practices realize is you're only getting some of a patient's disposable income. For that very reason, they look at you now, let's say as a surgeon, they'll come in for a bleph, they'll come back for a facelift later, but they're going to a med spa to do the fun stuff, like just the little Botox thing, or they'll go to their favorite injector at another med spa. So I just know, just heads up, there's always more money there. It's just how much of it do you want to work for? Do you just let some of that go, let the med spa take it? I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. How competitive is it by you? And by the way, is everything in Atlanta on Peachtree? I don't, every time I go there, that's the only address I ever see. Is it the longest street on the planet?
It is so crazy. I forgot the number, but I think there's something like 74 streets named Peachtree. And
Peachtree. Yeah. What is that? Why? Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, and of course, it's called the Peach State, but it's pretty hard to find it. If somebody visits you and they want a piece of peach pie, you can't find it. You got to go to North Carolina to get some peach pie. But it's funny. Good travel tip. And but as far as the competition, I would say that it's interesting. I write about this in my book. When you look at the statistics, and if you look at the Aesthetic Society through plastic surgery, and they rank all the different cities, Atlanta is typically number 1 for the density of plastic surgery. So people go to California a lot, but it's all spread out, and they go to New York a lot. And so LA, New York City, maybe San Francisco, but Atlanta is always in the top one or two or three. And from my office, I could throw a baseball and hit probably 20, 25 plastic surgeons.
So crazy. Yeah. You know what else I noticed in Atlanta? You have these very big practices with multiple plastic surgeons all vying for the plastic surgery patients. I just think they are very complicated practices to consult with. You can't get a decision made with 5 egos in one room. It just doesn't happen. So what do you think about that business model? It's still very popular there. Is it still popular there?
Yes, it is. And I think that a lot of it is because, people grow up in that environment, or they'll train with somebody like that, and they just don't think outside the box. And it's easier to conform and get in the elevator, so to speak, and just go up with your career through that box. And, a lot of younger people, I think, are starting to realize that you don't have to go that way. And it's so much more efficient, even if you're solo, to kind of march to your own tune and use resources of the hospital consultants like yourself. You don't have to be in a big group, and you're always going to be happier. I've never met a plastic surgeon that was less happy from leaving a big group. They complain a lot about the big group, but they never regret it when they leave.
You're absolutely right. I've never heard somebody complain about leaving a group or a hospital, actually.
Yeah. And, one of a good friend of mine from years ago, you might even know him, Steve Cohen. He's a plastic surgeon in LA.
Out here. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I believe he's in maybe San Diego, but we used to do cases and things in the early days in Atlanta, and he was in a big group and I was in a group, and we would compare notes. And then, his group ended up imploding and everybody sues each other. And he just got so tired of it. He moved out to California, and he's been solo, and he's never been happier and more successful than he is now. Yep. And that's a typical scenario.
That's so true. Talking about that, what's like one big mistake you made that others could learn from because you learned from it?
Yeah, I would say, as I think about that, one that I've mentioned, that if you're early on, I would try to acquire ownership of your property and your practice, because it'll serve you so well long term. That's a big one. I would say, and this is a little vague, and I'll explain it, but kind of follow your gut, follow your instincts. Everybody has different approaches to who they are and the practice they want. I remember when I started out, and of course, this is in the very early 90s, and I wanted to put in my brochure satisfaction guaranteed, or something to that effect. Because if you think about it, most people that are worth their weight, they're going to do everything they can to make a patient happy. And everybody's human, and nobody's perfect. And if you have somebody that say you do a 4 or 5 hour surgery and they heal and they have a little lump the size of a marble, well, you're going to do everything you can to get rid of it and help them. You're not going to say, well, that's your fault and you shouldn't have eaten some French fries or something, So you're going to do everything you can to satisfy somebody. So why not let them know up front that's who you are? And all the attorneys and all the other doctors say, oh, you can't do that, and that's unethical, and this, that, and the other. And same thing, I've gone full circle. So now I put that out front and let everybody know, I call it my love-free guarantee. So basically you either love it or it's free guarantee. And, I don't like to challenge patients, but I've never had anybody ask me for a refund because they don't love it, because I'm going to do everything I can for them to be happy. And I would advise that.
It's a marketing secret.
Yeah.
I gave a talk on this. It's called risk reversal, and it's built
Yeah.
into everything we buy. I mean, if everyone would just think how they buy, we love 100% guarantee, money back guarantee. Otherwise, the times you will literally have to give your money back are nil compared to what you get from it.
Right.
And I say to the surgeons, you know what? When someone's unhappy, what do you end up doing anyway? You end up fixing
Exactly.
it or giving them their money back. So why not preempt that and make it a
Right.
marketing selling point, and your conversion rates will go up. I wouldn't
Right.
like spring. Like, I don't know if I would advertise it out loud, but I would certainly do it internally with the coordinator and saying, you know what, we want to make you happy guarantee here, and this is how it
Right.
works. I think it's a great
Right.
idea.
Yeah. And I think it also establishes a level of confidence and comfort with your client, for them to know that you are in it for the long haul. You'll do everything you can to be on their team. Everybody has bought a car and been treated like royalty. And then they go in to get something done at the service department and they won't even answer the phone. And everybody's afraid of that with surgery. That what if they make a mistake? What if their, doctor doesn't think blah, blah, blah. And they need to be comfortable that it's a long-term relationship. And so that would be one approach that I would certainly suggest to people, that I would say has never hurt me, but it would have been better if I would have gone more with my instinct instead of listening to others. And so that's something I would suggest. And then the other thing I would suggest is, don't be the first guy on the block to try and perform the new technology. You want to be on the forefront of things, but you don't want to, it kind of reminds me, I had a guy that used to work for me from Wisconsin. And one of the things they did, they had a bunch of lakes up there, and every winter, somebody's got to drive their truck out there on that lake, because what they do is they all, go on the ice and spin their trucks around and have fun. But you don't want to be the first guy to drive your truck on the lake, because he showed me video pictures of people, their whole truck went underwater in the lake because it wasn't ready, and I compare that to technology. Understand it and know it's safe before you're the first one to try it.
That's a really good point. And God, that sounds so cold. I'm from Chicago and it's December right now. And I still remember how cold that was. And people would go ice fishing. And I thought, why would you do any more cold than you have to do? But
right.
So glad not to be here. Glad to be in California. So talking about marketing and talking about differentiating, I want to show your book. This is his consumer book called Face Change. It has the cutest little Shar-Pei puppy on here. And who thought of this? The Shar-Pei and the book were so eye-catching. I got my own book, and when I got it, it actually came with a Shar-Pei teddy bear, or what's it called, stuffed animal. It was amazing. Right. Then you have this cute, great branding. Like, this was my bookmark, and I still have it. I bought this book 15 years ago. And the best part, you have your son doing the forward. Look at this. Chris Cole, here's his son doing the forward. And he's very sensitive. Like he really understood, like he really understands the patients, and he loves that you help people and you transform lives. And this book is amazing. And it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon, which of course I would like to figure out how you pull that off. That's a marketing thing. But tell me how much this book has been helpful to you, and how it differentiated you.
Sure. I would say that book has really been a great validator and opened doors that might not have been opened before. And I will say that when I did it, it was a lot harder than it is to do it now. So that's a good thing for people considering writing a book. It's a whole lot easier to do it now. And it started out that, because I started originally with ophthalmology, that was my first board certification. I was very comfortable with Botox, and I worked with, Gene Carruthers, Alistair Carruthers, way back when in the 80s. and doing Botox and all. And she noticed, that people weren't having as many wrinkles because her husband, he was using it too. And because we used to give it for people that have movement disorders called blepharospasm. The people used to see in the grocery store at 2:30 in the morning because they didn't want to run into anybody, with all these twitches and things. And so I had a lot of experience. I was very comfortable with it. Well, when it finally got approved by the FDA, all the doctors and everybody was nervous because it's a toxin, and how do you explain it, and how do you educate patients, and that kind of thing. So I tend to have fun and joke around a lot. And I said, well, I'm just going to do an ad with my Shar, and I put on the ad, not everyone looks as cute with wrinkles, Botox. And it took off.
That really was your dog?
Yeah, my dog and my ad. And the funniest thing is I had no idea that the industry had contests and things, or I should have probably trademarked or copyrighted or something, because about 6 months, 8 months later, I got this huge award in the mail and an invitation, and I won a silver medal for advertising for that ad. And I was just having fun. And now you look at so many ads, you see Shar-Pays and you see things about wrinkles and stuff. And that all started with my ad, just having fun.
That's so great.
But because I got such
real life, don't you have Shar-Pays in real life?
I do. And they're great dogs. And a funny story, maybe we'll talk about another time. I've actually done surgery on my own dog because they get interning of their lashes called entropion. And I actually called the vet and wanted to get it repaired. And he said it's too complicated and all that. And I told him what I did. And he said, well, it's a shame you couldn't do it. And I said, well, why can't I? Why don't I teach some of the vets how to do it? So we arranged it, and I brought my dog, and he had about 5 veterinarians there. I did one side, and I kind of looked up, and I could see that they were nervous. So I started making it even more complicated with the anatomy and all. And after I finished, I said, does anybody want to do the other side, or do y'all want me to do it? And I can show you some more anatomy. And they said, no, why don't you do it? So it was great. I got free surgery on my own dog at the vet, and they got to learn how to do the surgery.
Wow. New profit center for you. Yeah.
It was really funny, but getting back to the book and everything. So what happened was the ad was very popular. And so I thought, I'm just going to make it my mascot. And so I'm from New Orleans and have that Cajun flair. So I decided to name the mascot Botox, and it's spelled Beau to put a little Cajun twist on it. And so people that come in for Botox, I would give them a little puppy just for fun. And it caught on. And we literally have had dogs on Craigslist where people are selling the dog, and it says Dr. Cole's famous Shar-Pei puppy for sale. And so what we do is we buy them back and tell them we're bringing them home because we want to make sure they have good care.
That is so cute, because I have never forgotten. I've known you for over 15 years. I have never forgotten Chip Cole, Shar-Pei, book, stuffed animal. Like that was funny. Brilliant.
Yeah. And then as far as the book goes, I went through some interesting times with my son where he was diagnosed bipolar. And so the reason I named it Face Change is obviously your face changing over time, but it's a double entendre, also facing change in life. And so I have a foundation called Face Change Foundation, where I take 10% of cosmetic surgery and all the book sales, and I help troubled teenagers, abused people, domestic violence, that kind of thing. And it's a way for me to pay it forward.
Oh, what a great idea. And good for you. Good for you.
So, my son is doing fantastic. He went on to he's a counselor now, got a degree in transpersonal psychology, and he's counseling and helping, and we get to collaborate a lot together, which is really rewarding.
Now, what about the other son? I understand he's working with you in the practice. Is he working in the practice or just around it?
Well, both, primarily around it. He used to work in the practice, but he's gotten a lot busier. He is a classic starving artist because, as an artist and actor, you usually wear about 4 or 5 hats. And he went and got his master's degree in fine arts and film production. And he's also a stand-up comedian. He's been in several commercials, like with Taco Bell and Subway and some big ones. And he's been in a few TV series. And so I was hoping that I was advanced enough that I could skip the whole social media and internet because, when I was starting out, everything was word of mouth. Well, word of mouth has been replaced by likes. And so you have to kind of get involved with all that. So I have had fun getting involved in some social media with Tyler, my youngest son. And it's a way for us to collaborate, use his skills, and still have that, father-son bond.
Well, I checked out your Instagram, and I just know patients love to know like the behind the scenes, like who are you? And I know your story. Like you married your not even high school sweetheart. You married, like, what were you, in 8th grade or something when you met? And you have 3 children, then you have 5 grandchildren, but I only see 2 Instagram with children in it, just the grandchildren. Are you going to add more personality to it?
Yes, I am. It's funny. I get a lot of requests for that. And I told Tyler, and we're going to start having more of that, because on Facebook, I used to have more family stuff and people would love it. And just the other day, I was pushing a couple of my grandsons, and my wife took a picture of in the stroller, and she said, "Do you realize that you had more likes from your grandkids than you did from doing a surgery video?" And
so true.
And it's true. People want to know who their doctor is, and they consider you almost part of the family. And I think that's one of the big advantages for younger doctors is they have that medium to share that, and they're even more comfortable with it than my age group because they grew up doing it and sharing. And so I think that's a great way to accelerate their practice is through social media.
For sure. Is there anything else you're doing right now that's working? Like, marketing has changed so much throughout the decades. Is there something that used to work that doesn't any longer, or that's working now that never used to be able to work, or something new? Any marketing pearls?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest one for me, when I started out, I would do a print ad in our local glossy magazine called Atlanta Magazine. Every city pretty much has one. And then I got a lot of good feedback. And then I started realizing that I was branded enough through that I started doing it every other month. Then I did it every 3 months. And I didn't see any drop off by doing it once a quarter versus every month. And so I think that's a good pearl for people starting out, that you don't have to hit it so hard with marketing, whether it be digital or print or even mail outs. You just have to have your presence out there so you're in the conversation. And I'm seeing a whole swing in the pendulum with marketing, because now I think everybody's tired of opening emails and things, that if I want to send out something like a handwritten note, it always gets looked at, or a newsletter, because, now people like to look at a magazine because they're tired of, working out their thumb and strolling through their phone. So I think there's going to be a resurgence of some of the magazines and things that there used to not be.
I know, for my own business, I do a lot more direct mail now than anything,
Right.
just to try to get people's attention. There's nothing like direct mail. There's nobody in the mailbox anymore, or any fun stuff anyway. So I take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So How did you learn, because you're a really good businessman, how did you learn that? As a surgeon, most surgeons, obviously you were in medical school, and like other people like me, like I went to graduate school to get an MBA. So I did the business side. How do you surgeons learn the business side of surgery?
I like to, what I call think outside the box. When I give talks, even to, other docs, I usually will start off something to the effect of, wisdom is when you learn from your own mistakes and experiences, and genius is when you learn from the mistakes of others. And that through this talk, I'm going to try to make all of y'all geniuses. And, I get a little chuckle, but that's a concept that I like to approach things and to teach people is, there's so much you can learn from if you really think outside the box. And one good example for me was like Zappos, for instance. Zappos was a business that was going bankrupt, and somebody took over Zappos, and he went in the board meeting and said, we're going to start doing free shipping. And they said, we can't afford to do free shipping. We're about to go bankrupt. And he said, well, we're not only going to do free shipping, we're going to do free shipping both directions, not only to the client, but when they return them. And half the people were so upset, they tried to get them thrown out. Well, look what happened to Zappos. They not only changed the industry, but they became a household name because of their service. And so I try to see things like that in business and then learn from it and say, well, how can I adapt that to my own business and my own clients? And that's when I came up with kind of my whole love-free guarantee approach, is give people not only more than they expect, which is cliche, but more than they would even perceive. And it makes it more fun for the team. And it makes it almost like a challenge. When somebody ever complains, which is very rare, I like to tell people in the office, like, I'd like to call them. And I look at it as a challenge. Like, how can I diffuse this person and have them understand and become their friend and have them go from, what I call a love, hate, love relationship. So everybody loves their doctor when they start. Then they have a bad experience, or they have even surgery becomes a hate phase. I call it the frustration phase, but they go through this point where, I can't believe that my husband let me do this, or my wife, or, and why did I do it with them? And I was so stupid and all that. And then it goes full cycle. Well, that's the endorphins and all the psychology going on. So it's the love, hate, love stage. So I like to get people out of that hate, and hate might be dislike, it might be frustration, but there's no reason you can't have everybody finish in the love phase with you, your office, and everything else. And so I think about those things, and I try to make it an experience, because, at the end of the day, it's kind of like you said, we met many years ago, and you remember, Chip's Tips and a dog or something, but you remember an experience, you remember a feeling, you don't remember the exact conversation. And that's what I try to leave people with. And so as I'm formulating my practice and my approach, I always think about that.
That's so great. I didn't realize we have to wrap it up. We've talked a lot. So tell us something that we don't know about you already.
I love yellow. Everything I have and everything I do, and anytime somebody wants to make me smile, they give me some sunshine and yellow. So I have a yellow car, a yellow boat, a yellow motorcycle, yellow four-wheelers, a yellow snowboard.
That is very funny.
And my logo's yellow, and I have yellow tennis shoes on. So yellow is my happy color. That's my happy place.
Oh, that's amazing. As a redhead, I can't wear yellow. It doesn't work for me. I'm better off in color like blue or green, but that is amazing. You really like yellow. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I do.
All
And
right.
and I would say that the next thing is, and people that know me know, but family is a really big deal to me. And so I now have 6 grandsons
Oh,
and 3 kids, 6 grandsons, and everything I do revolves around my family. And I'm very blessed. And a lot of that is my Southern kind of Cajun roots. Certain heritage is different than others, but family and food is a big deal when I grew up. And so everything's around family and food and fun.
right. Oh, that's a good logo. Family, food, and fun.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
3 F's.
Yeah. Yeah. And fame and fortune. You could add that too.
There you go. Yeah, we'd have a whole list of them.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any last words? Let's say for people who are starting out or just been around for a little while, any words of wisdom that you can give somebody like you who's been there, done that?
Yeah, I would say, and this is completely unsolicited. When you start out, you want to shortcut your success. And the best way to shortcut your success is a concept that's become popular, what I call masterminds. And a mastermind is really kind of like I said before, the difference between wisdom and genius. And I think that to be able to hook up with somebody like yourself that has a lot of experience and has seen a lot of different changes, you really can shortcut your success. What takes some people maybe 10 years to be successful, you can do it in 2 years if you have somebody, a consultant that can help you shortcut everything. And so I would suggest somebody reach out to someone like yourself, like I did in the past, that helps me catapult my success.
Thank you for saying that. And as a matter of fact, I walk my talk. I'm always in a mastermind, and they're typically 20 grand plus. So it's everything to share minds. Otherwise, we're all stuck in our own heads and we only know what we know. And nothing can expand your mind more than going and hanging around other big thinkers going, wow, it's mind blowing. It really is.
I agree. In fact, you might not even remember this, but one of the things that always impressed me about you is we had a relationship, a long time ago, and I got some things going. And like a lot of times when you have a consultant, you get things accomplished and you get to where you're at a certain point, and then you decide, well, maybe I can take it from here kind of on my own. And then I ran into you at a Dan Kennedy meeting, and I thought, my goodness, boy, does she walk her talk. And after that, I reached out to you again, and you told me that you actually spent a whole day with Dan Kennedy and invested in yourself and your career. And that really shows me not only how much you walk your talk, but what you're willing to do for your clients to be a true expert.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, this isn't happening by magic.
No, it's not.
Like
any successful
by magic.
Yeah, and like any successful person, whether it be a consultant or a doctor, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I like to say with one of my colleagues from way back, we sewed a lot of cow eyeballs to get good at what we do. And one of my favorite sayings now is, there's only a millimeter between success and failure in my eyes, because I'm a microsurgeon. And that kind of precision came from operating on a lot of steaks and cow eyeballs.
Wow. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's nice to see you again. hopefully I'll see you in person someday soon.
I hope so.
Where can they learn more about you? I know your website is ocularplasticsurgery.com. Your foundation is facechange.info. You have Instagram? Maybe they could catch you on Instagram.
Sure. Yeah. My website is Oculus, like OCULUS, plasticsurgery.com.
Okay.
Not ocular. And then
Sorry.
the social is basically everything at Dr. Chip Cole.
All right. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Catherine.